Good morning, Satnam. I hope you're having a blessed morning. My morning feels like Monday all over again. How about you? I had a Monday on Monday, and then I had a Monday on Tuesday, and now I'm having a Monday again. So much going on in the collective right now. So much being transcended, and we're being just transformed all of the time with so many new energies coming through us that we're learning and discovering and transcending all of the time. Well, hello from the Philippines, right back at you. I remember you because your name reminds me of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And I start singing the song in my head every time I see your screen name, Twinkle Estrella. Yeah. So today I kind of wanted to discuss some really triggering topics and very catalyzing topics that I've been observing, because for those of you who've been following me on YouTube, I've only been here for 3 years now. I'm kind of a baby in comparison to some of you long, old timers on YouTube, been here for 10 years, got 50,000 followers and whatnot. I've been in this line of work for 21 years now. I've been teaching and channeling, doing shamanic process with people. I'm a medical intuitive. I started out as an aura reader, in my early 20s and landed where I am today as a yogi and spiritual teacher. I'm a sound healer. I work with divine sound current. So that's my journey, and that's how long it has been. But for those of you who didn't know that, you saw me on YouTube 3 years ago, and you've been working with me privately and publicly since then. Well, I started out in the New Age community because it's the best place to start if you really want to make a change. The New Age community was the biggest place that I observed needed and required the most change, the most misinformation, the most misperceptions, the most fear-mongering and fear-based spiritual teachings I have ever seen in any lifetime lie in the New Age community. Now, some of you are going to disagree with me because you're going to say, well, what about religions and things of that nature? And I will say that I've seen just as much fear-mongering in the New Age community and just as many fear-based myths and paranoia-based spiritual myths as I do in hardcore religious practices. And strangely enough, many of us come from very religious backgrounds. Can I get a show of hands on that? Just so I can know I'm not alone. You know where I'm coming from. I know that many of my students and people who have sat with me in healings and readings seems like we all came from this deeply restrictive religious background. And then we landed in New Age communities together, trying to figure out how we could have possibly landed exactly in the same types of restrictive core beliefs. If I really wanted to make a bad pun right now, I'd say, can I get an amen? But I'm just going to say, can I get a namaste? You see where I'm going with this? All the words are different, but the implications and the restrictions are the same. When people say, namaste, and they say it in that way, and they really mean F off. Yeah, I'm in an interesting mood today. So do you get that? When you're thinking about, let's go straight into one of the biggest myths that I wrote down to talk to you about today. Love and light. When people say that, that's another one that really captures me. When you're not really saying it with love and there's not a lot of light in it, that's another example. So I started to extricate myself from being known as a teacher in New Age communities, and I started learning about yoga. And I don't mean American yoga. I mean the 8 original branches of Eastern yoga. And I started to put focus as a shaman on my breath. And coming out of shamanism, it was a really easy transition. But if you were to ask me where I stand in my teachings, I would say it's everything, right? I'm not just a yogi. I'm not just a shaman. I'm a spiritual teacher that helps you embody something that is beyond belief. And notice I said, I help you embody something So the reason why I say that is because when I explored oneness teachings, I noticed that they're intent on helping you get out of the body as if the ego is something to kill. So everywhere I went, I was finding these catastrophic, devastatingly dangerous beliefs. And it didn't matter where I looked, I would find them more and more and more until I realized that beliefs as a whole are, generally speaking, what creates the problem if there's a fear behind them. Because love isn't about belief. Love is about reality. Torborn, I'm not sure I understand your question. What question do you have about gurus? Pipilika, my oneness teachings are very, very different because I believe in creating with oneness. So, yeah. 7, I'm sorry if I didn't get your email. I really do try to be responsive, but there's myself and one other person answering, and my assistant catches the majority of them, like 80%, and then I catch the rest. But I get just hundreds of them a day. It's really hard to keep track of, to try to do that. So what I'm trying to talk about today is the kind of the myths, the fear-based things going on, particularly in New Age communities, anything that's really that you're coming across that you just don't resonate with. Why are you seeing it? What are you saying? I would really love for you to share that with me today and start typing. I am watching your chat avidly and really interested in what you have to say about this. Because I observe you. I just sit back and observe, and I teach you what I feel like you need to hear and learn collectively at the time when you're bringing all these things to me. So what I'm observing right now is coming from a lot of myths and misperceptions in the New Age community. So I'd like to go through some of the major ones that I'm noticing, and I would like to hear from you as well about what you're noticing that's really bothering you about, New Age community teachings. Oh, that's a good one, Patricia. We can start there, and I'll add some of mine that I've written down as well. She said, is there a galactic federation that is cleaning out dark energies? Yes. In the creative dream, there are many federations. And notice I said in the creative dream. So the oneness teachings will try to get you to say, well, because that's just a creative dream, you need to avoid it all. They also tell you to avoid your body, and to avoid believing that you're the body, and to avoid your mind. Well, you have a body and a mind, and even though you are not that, they are creative tools. And when you really bring oneness into the body and mind become the servants of a master that is the heart, and the breath becomes your tool. Okay, and that's all over Eastern teachings. That's all in Buddhism, particularly Tibetan Buddhism, and what else? Many yogic teachings, many shamanic teachings. That's everywhere. But New Age community would like to get you to believe in just the body and just the mind and all the little dreams and stories of the Galactic Federation and everything that promotes belief in separation, which, quite frankly, it is, if you put all of your focus and belief on anything that has a fear around it, if you're worried that there's darkness that needs to be cleared all the time, your focus is where your life goes creatively. So can you see how that might be concerning? So yeah, there are federations. I was a galactic historian for 15 years. And I thought that bringing you more would be more information about these federations and about galactic history would ease the mind, and all it did was make you want more. Give the ego that kind of information, it goes, oh, okay, that was really great, give me more. It's kind of like eating too much pizza. What does it really get you to? Why do we want to know? And in the creative dream, there are just millions and millions and millions of stories. So Ian, I really didn't get your question. All I got was instead of tearing others down. So I do want to address that because I'm not tearing anyone down at all. What I'm doing is bringing to your awareness some of the fear-based myths that are going on and how perhaps things could be misperceived in New Age communities. So that's kind of that's not a bringing anyone down, but what it is a authentic conversation about what I'm observing. And for some people, they are coming to me and saying these beliefs are tearing me down. They're telling me how I'm seeing this in the New Age communities, and it's bothering me, and it's making me afraid, and it's causing for extreme anxieties. So what I'm trying to do is give you relief, give you peace, and help you understand that, what's going on, that's out there, and help you get a better understanding of it, Next question. I know that you are in the school of the 3 days of darkness. No. Let's just stop right there. I am in no one's school. And others are adamant that it is not real. Why is this such a polarizing topic? For the past 20 years, humans have been creating polarizing topics to the point where you begged and begged and begged me to discuss 3 days of darkness. So I asked my higher self. I'm just like the event. Everyone's been kind of mongering over that and hooked into that school for years and years and years as well. And eventually I started doing channelings about it because you kept asking, but I'm not really in the school of it. What I do is say, yeah, I've observed that this is out here. I actually had a dream about it and it was not catastrophic. And this is my perspective of it. But do I believe that it's real or not? Well, that's not really a very relevant question. Because if you're on Earth, you're in a dream and it is not real. The end, according to oneness teachings. However, you want to enjoy that dream. And you know what? Whether it's real or not, it's not relevant because it feels real. So this is not a matter of which teaching is true and which teaching isn't. If it's a belief that is fear-based, it's not real. If it's a belief at all, generally speaking, unless love is behind it, is not real. So beliefs in general are creative. They're not reality. And that's something that you should know to begin with. So some people, based upon where they are in the human conscious collective, they're going to have different beliefs. And where you are in your sadhana and your spiritual practice, where you are in your unique creative process with energy is going to determine your belief. If you are operating in a frequency of love and trust and allowance, and compassion, generally speaking, you may see things about 3 days of darkness, just like I did, but you didn't see it being so catastrophic. So what happens in an Earth environment is based upon where you are in your frequency and your belief system. Okay. So thank you for that super chat, Patricia. I really appreciate that. So I'm not going back to that. I'm not in the school of the 3 days of darkness. I share with you something, and I don't believe it is real or unreal. I believe it as a dream that you can create for the better or for the worse, and that some of you are going to be experiencing really powerful, amazing, phenomenal things. Some of you are going to be experiencing some disaster. And that disaster is very, earth disasters, earth catastrophes like volcanoes and fire and water and different things. Someone came to me the other day and said, fire is the way it's going to happen. And if you're teaching about water, that's wrong. Water is the way it's going to happen. Someone else told me a day before. And if you're teaching about fire, that's wrong. And do you see the danger of polarizing things so much that someone's dream is infringed upon and they're not being able to experience what they have creatively contracted themselves to experience if you're saying that only one thing's going to happen to an entire collective of humans? That just really chaps my hide. People have been fighting about what's going to happen, and this is right and this is wrong in the event, and this is right and this is wrong, but none of it's right and none of it's wrong because we are all having unique individual creative experiences, a dream within a dream within a dream within a dream. So if you happen to be dreaming with someone else in your tiny little bubble, when I say tiny, out of almost 8 billion people on this planet, it is a tiny bubble. All of us watching right now are within a tiny bubble. And we will all be probably experiencing something similar if we're at the same frequency. And those of you who saw my YouTube and aligned with it understand. And those of you who don't may experience something different. And that's okay. So this idea that we need to cling to one outcome for everything, that is a misperception. One of the biggest misperceptions I have seen in New Age communities everywhere. I see this in prophecies. in religious communities also. Oh boy, yeah, that one, Louise. Louise said the biggest one that is going in my head is that when we die, we are caught by fourth dimensional aliens and recycled right away back to Earth as if we have no choice. You always have a choice. For any belief that pulls you into fear and powerlessness, you can go ahead and just toss that in its own recycle bin. Okay, the recycled theory that human souls are recycled. You are God's. If God wants to decide that God is powerless and be recycled, and you have that fear and you have created that fear for yourself and you've attached yourself to it and created a belief system, guess what's going to happen? That right there. Because that's what you believe most strongly. And that's how powerful you are as fractals of God in a creative environment. In oneness, you're all God, dreaming that you're fractals of God, and none of those things exist. You're just children dreaming. But either way, you can have a dream that's beautiful, or you can have a nightmare. If you want to believe in all of this, this is bad and this is good, you're going to create one or the other. The powerful creativity of oneness is that you can create something in between all of that. How great is that? You can create something that you don't even know. It's just incredible, the things that we can create. What is the best way to remove a belief? How can you kill a ghost? It's already dead. The past doesn't exist, and beliefs are created from either the future or the past, none of which exist yet. So you can't actually remove a belief. You can decide to create with it or decide that it isn't real. It's creativity, but it isn't something that needs to be removed at all. So just the awareness of that oneness truth is incredible. Why can't we have heaven on earth instead of going there? Absolutely, Robert. You're onto it. So that is the point of being here, is to create heaven where you are, to stop looking outside of everything. So I wanted to bring something that I'm observing right now, one of the beliefs in the New Age community that's really bothering me. When people use universal laws to shame you, it's like New Age shaming is what I call it. The law of attraction is the main one that I notice being used, to basically keep you restricted. The law of attraction. If you see it, you created it. Yeah. And so what? Yeah. Okay. If you see it, love it. If you like what you see, love it. If you don't, forgive it. The end. What's real on this earth are two things: love or a call to love. So if you can't love something, it's a call for you to forgive it and bring compassion towards it into the situation. So that is basically, if you maintain beliefs to the extent that they control you, you are maintaining basically a division of God. You are separating God, and you are saying God is either this way or this way. You're here to learn all the things that you don't know about God, which happens to be in between this way and this way. And when I mean this way and this way, I mean right, wrong, good, bad, sin, bliss, all of that stuff that we create. Yeah, humans don't know who we are. You're absolutely right, Torbjorn. So the law of attraction, when people say, you created it, so you should just deal with it, that's spiritual shaming. It is shame is one of the most useless frequencies and emotions I have ever observed on this planet. It is incredibly destructive. So, that's for a longer conversation. Twinkle Estrella said, can you discuss the difference between Christ consciousness and Luciferian consciousness for people who don't know about it? Well, no, because that is another separated belief that you would put, well, not you, but anyone would put Christ over here and Lucifer over here. And what I've been taught is they are two sides of the same thing. Flip a flip a coin, heads or tails, it's still the same coin. The next belief that I want to discuss in New Age communities that is really an opportunity for more knowledge, more wisdom about truth. If you're enlightened, you don't cry, you don't feel angry, and you don't experience sickness mentally or physically, and you don't experience pain or problems. What I've observed about enlightenment is that almost every dead yogi that I've ever seen has died from cancer. I saw one really powerful Christ conscious yogi who started an entire foundation get behind the scenes, get publicly thwarted and persecuted, accosted, and targeted. The more deeply you go into spreading the light, the more you're going to get challenged. It's like the universe. You're in a creative universe, and this universe is saying, "Oh, really? Well, let me give you a different challenge that makes it even harder to stay in that light, that challenges you even deeper with your belief in oneness, even." Because oneness, the belief that there's only one thing and nothing outside of that, has become an interesting religion as well. So it is this belief that teachers, gurus, and enlightened beings should be seen as perfect and peaceful. And the closer you get to realization, and especially thereafter, the truth is that you will cry. You will experience more pain. The difference is that you will not turn that pain into suffering, and you will have the mastery to turn those tears into bliss and joy and compassion, or something better. You will be crying with compassion. I cry hard and I cry often. I don't let even people extremely close to me see that, especially if I'm meant to be like strong. So even that is hard because people have these expectations that are pretty drilled into you. But if I feel vulnerable and comfortable, I start crying at the drop of the hat. So crying does not necessarily have to mean suffering. I cry when I'm feeling compassion. I cry when I'm transmuting pain for other people that are suffering. I cry because it makes me blissful when I see humanity connecting with each other. Now let's discuss anger. Do enlightened people feel anger? Oh, absolutely. It's kind of a righteous anger. It's one of these feelings of, oh my goodness, you put all this work into things and people are still hurting and tearing each other apart and living these nightmarish dreams. And yes, it's going to make you angry. And that anger is going to bring about a creative power. Anger is only one frequency away from empowerment. So anger for me gets easily transmuted into empowerment. And anger comes when I need to be acting and doing and creating a solution for myself or the world. So if I didn't have anger, I would not experience empowerment. So do you see what a misperception that one is? Enlightened people can't be angry. That's what we're discussing if you're just showing up just now. Yeah. So it's just incredibly, these beliefs about enlightenment. Here's another one. Teachers and gurus should work for free. Well, that comes from a caste system in India. And believe me, that caste system is very supported. So if you want to go to that country and be supported in ashrams and temples and whatnot, the gurus and teachers there are financially supported from donations and from all sorts of directions. They support themselves and they receive donations from organizations, from nonprofit organizations, and from families. So of course they can work for free because they're being given money behind the scenes from elsewhere. So that is put into a more modern, onto more modern New Age teachers and gurus, which doesn't make sense in America, because how are we going to, let's make this logical. How am I going to afford the internet service, which, by the way, you require an extremely competent upload speed for me be able to do live streams for you every day, right? I have like anywhere in my office, I think I have a 40 upload speed. And at home, I have like a 40 to 180 or 60 to 180 upload speed. That's what it requires for me to be able to do the work I do. Guess what? $250 a month for corporate internet. Ridiculous, right? So how would I pay for that without receiving money? I'm not in India. I'm not supported by a temple or a caste system. I'm not supported in that way. And Americans don't really give donations because they believe, based upon this misperception, that I should be working for free. So let's talk about that belief system and how that doesn't make sense to you. You see what I mean? It just doesn't. That's another misperception. Oh, chakras in the third eye. Everyone has chakras. Okay. I do see that the majority of people on earth has chakras. That's because the belief system in them are so strong. But I've observed people who also don't, because their belief system that they don't need them is strong. And as highly advanced beings, their belief system trumps the collective belief card there. Can I talk about the event? No, because it's happened again and again and again and again in various ways of the same thing. So kind of ask me more of what you want to know, because what I've observed about the event is that it's happening over and over and over again because people keep kind of creating the collective belief and kind of going into it more. I've noticed that throughout maybe the past 10,000 years of human life that the events get easier, not worse. I've noticed that. But other than that, it's just another collective belief system that results in the same thing. The event is within, Matt said. Yeah, Yeshua told me that a long time ago. And depending upon where you are in here, what you see out here is going to be a different event. So for us always trying to seek truth in one way, shape, or form, unless that one way is love, isn't going to work. Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting question, Butterfly. She said, if yogis get cancer and other things, would that mean that we give power to being the body? No, not necessarily. These yogis are enlightened beings, and they are full aware that they aren't the body, and they still died from cancer. Sometimes their creative contracts just end, and the unique type of ascension that happens means they get cancer. You perceive an illness because you believe in death and you believe in cancer. And many of you collectively believe in that and believe in that guru. And then that guru dies of cancer because of your belief. Has nothing to do with one human's belief is that they will or that they want. If many of you observe that, then you observe him dying from cancer. And then that's what happens. But that yogi doesn't actually die, doesn't even, Sri Ramana Maharshi did not even feel his pain. And he was one of them that died from cancer. I think Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj died from cancer as well. Didn't feel it, didn't suffer. We don't have the same types of suffering. I can suffer in my body for a few moments and hold on to it for minutes to hours at a time, and then it's gone. I'm like, oh, I feel pain right now. Better work on that. And then it's gone. It doesn't become emotional suffering. So people form based upon collective contracts, the way that they allegedly die, and that's all that it is. And then you are thinking it's death when what it is their unique way to ascend. And not just theirs, but yogis around the world. And you're like, oh, well, they weren't enlightened if they died of cancer. Well, the body's not real. So, and humans collectively believe in death. So I think you see where I'm going with this. If you don't believe in environmental pollution, then it won't exist in your reality. Not especially, because then we're talking about, is your belief predominantly conscious? Are you aware of it in your conscious thinking patterns? Or are you operating, as most people do, from not the tip of the iceberg? Because let me just share this with you about beliefs. I knew I was going to do some kindergarten drawing in today's class. So let's get on with it. Oh no, I'm out of paper. I'm always out of paper. Hold on, another notebook must happen. It's this one. I've drawn for you too much last week. killed all my paper. So this is what beliefs, this is what it's like. You know what I'm going to do? This is water in the sea. All of this is the water. This is what you actually see and are aware of in your waking consciousness. But there are levels of the subconscious that go deeper. Okay. This is what you're aware of. You say that you don't have a belief in the environment being polluted. Well, that's up here. Under here, you probably have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels of undiscovered subconscious belief patterns that are ruling the roost. And then you're kind of going along, you know, the little boat going along the sea. And you're like, boom, what was that? Titanic sank. Why? Because there was something up underneath the surface that was powerful enough that they aren't aware of. And this is how belief works collectively. And the deeper that iceberg goes and the more that isn't seen, the more powerful it is. This is why one of my purposes in these contracts is awareness. I bring these teachings to you so that you can become aware of how belief works. Okay? You made me live, Anya. Wonderful. Does being addicted to heroin keep a person in the third density, even if they've been practicing meditation and trying to live from their heart chakra? If you are addicted and attached to something, you are not living from your heart chakra. Pretty much the end on that. You can have moments of it. You can have moments of awareness of living in the anahata, but there would be no addiction and attachment there within you. So, of course, that's going to primarily keep you in the third density if you are addicted to heroin. I wonder what we collectively signed up for now. Goodness, it wouldn't matter if I told you, because by the time you blink your eye, you're going to change again. That's how powerful you are. But I will tell you, right now, the belief that we're trying to transcend ultimately and collectively is we're trying to get out of powerlessness. And that requires compassion and forgiveness. Forgiveness is the tool and compassion is the technology that helps humanity transcend powerlessness. That's what we're trying to learn collectively. Did I experience being in depression? Oh boy, did I. I have had the worst moments, not moments, years of dark night of the soul that you could possibly imagine. And this is when I've done my best writing. This is when I've created my best music. This is when I've given you the best teachings, is from either dark night of the soul or straight out just love and compassion. So it's like my creation periods happen in darkness or full on grace and love. How can you access my channeling of Lord Shiva and the Divine Shakti? The channeling of Shiva and Kali it's not here yet. It's going to be live on Patreon. I believe it's for tier 1 and up. Yes, I got you saying yes. On Friday at 4 p.m. You can access it live there. So that's patreon.com/Pamela Aaralyn. Yep. We also have a special going on. If you join Patreon at any paid level, you get a 33% discount off of any service on my website, not on Patreon, but on PamelaAaralyn.com. Any reading, any healing, any training or mentorship, any class, anything on PamelaAaralyn.com. So that's there right now as well. Can't wait for it, by the way. Oh, and surprise, I'm going to be co-channeling with the powerful Christ conscious up and coming channel. Her name is Annie Rios. And I'm going to have a facilitator for both of us as well. So she's going to be bringing through Shiva and whoever else tries to show up for her. She has channeled a lot of powerful Christ conscious beings. And she's just incredible. You will love her. She's a lot like me in the way that she's a clear conduit channel most of the time. Would you say to someone who has been taking antidepressants and feels dependent on them now, now to function, how that might affect them long term. I'm the someone. Well, first of all, I'm just going to send you compassion for a moment and let you know that I've been there and I understand with the antidepressants. And it takes a while to kind of get the right cocktail. And then some of them are incredibly difficult to get off of, more so the mood stabilizers than the antidepressants. But I enjoyed observing what they did to my brain, even though it didn't feel good. It really didn't make you feel good. It made you feel nothing. And for a creative, an empath, a musician, a channel, it was devastating. I remember people saying to me, I don't feel you. I don't feel your essence. I don't feel your personality. I don't feel who you are. You're still teaching and everything's accurate. Your readings are accurate. Your channelings are accurate, but I don't feel your essence. And that was devastating to hear, and more devastating to feel and to not have any control over. So it feels like someone just kind of just went in and just cut off your heart. Just basically just went stop and just covered it and said, don't feel nothing. You're okay. Be robotic. Do what the world wants you to do, right? So long term, what I've observed in the Human Conscious Collective for people on antidepressants is that they have a harder time knowing what is safe to feel about their own emotions, because you're so used to not feeling any negative emotional reaction. When you finally do decide to get off because you're tired of being numb, it's tragic. You feel deeply and intensely and get more depressed because you're not used to knowing what it feels like to feel. And it is functional to know what it feels like to feel. It's important to know your emotions are your compass to life. And if you can't feel them, something is really, really wrong. This is why I tell people who work with me for shamanic journeying, when they do quantum alchemy, as a client, and I'm the facilitator, I tell them, if you're on antidepressants or antipsychotics, I probably can't progress with you, because I need to, as a facilitator, to be able to see and observe you feeling and connecting to your heart and to your emotions, because that is the key to healing mentally, emotionally, physically. If you can't feel, you will not heal. The end of that. So sorry. But yeah, it affects you strongly. And it's hard to learn how to feel again. It's like re-traumatizing yourself. It's as if you just turned your heart off for months to years and turned it back on again. And everything's more sensitive and everything's harder. Thank you for the super chat, Doc. He said, is it possible to request intuitive abilities for our next life, which we do not have in this lifetime? Yeah, you're God. It's possible. Do it now. Write yourself up a sovereignty contract. But better yet, I'm going to tell you something that's true in universal law. The now is what's relevant. You do have an intuitive ability. Every single being on this planet has a talent intuitively. And what the problem is, and this is one of the biggest misperceptions in New Age communities, the opportunity for growth here is to observe and learn and be aware that the way that everyone else processes gifts might not be the way that your gifts are. As a spiritual teacher who awakens people to their gifts, who awakens people to their purpose, who makes you aware of that and helps activate that in you, what I observe is that everybody's gift is slightly different. That's why people in India, they know in the East, they will go to a guru and say, please help me uncover their gifts. And they sit with them and they spend months to years uncovering these things. But they do it the right way by meditation and connecting to their breath. And because they have sadhana, they have a spiritual practice, those gifts come naturally. And now what I am perceiving about living and being born in this lifetime in the United States is a completely opposite thing. Gurus and teachers are teaching you that your gifts happen first, that they awaken first. And you'll get all the ice cream and cherry on top of your cake first. And if you don't get that, don't worry about the breathing, the meditation. You don't need all that discipline. You will not have full accessibility to your gifts in a way that would be safe, functional, emotionally constructive and not destructive, unless you are breathing, meditating and have a spiritual practice. You may have a boom, Kundalini awakening and all that stuff. And then you wonder why later you go into extreme dark night of the soul, extreme panic attacks. So many people come to, I want to see my guides. Oh, really? I've watched you in shamanic journeys, seeing your guides without emotional stability, without knowing how to breathe, without a spiritual practice. And then you see your guides and your brain has no reference point to understanding what that is. And then on top of it, you have all these programmed collective beliefs telling you to be afraid of everything. Yeah, that conversation really triggers me, by the way, because you're programmed to be afraid, but then you want to see something that you know nothing about. So what do you think your brain is programmed to do? It's programmed to flip out. It's programmed to go insane. It's like, oh no, oh no, oh no. You're programmed primitively. So what I try to do in mentorships is deprogram you from all that, make you aware of where those beliefs are, and go through finding your practice. We talk about purpose and what it really is versus what you think it is and what you've been programmed by educational and religious systems and, yes, spiritual communities to think that it is. So my point, Doc, I'm going back to your question, is it's not about requesting something for the next life, even though you can do it. Absolutely, you can. And go ahead if you feel like it. But why? The future isn't here yet. Like, focus on now and try to sit with a teacher and find out what your gifts are now. And better yet, sit with yourself. I taught a class on Patreon called The Art of Spiritual Inquiry. I sold it on my website for $13. You guys were complaining about money. So I went, oh my gosh, it's $13. It's right there on my website. It's 33% off right now of $13. And I thought, if I just give you all my tips and tools about how to sit with yourself, how to ask questions to higher guidance, to yourself, then you'll get it. Well, you didn't really buy the class, even though I've been promoting it for 6 months. And then you're like, how do I open these abilities? By asking questions. The reason why I have access to so much information, the only difference between me, an accurate channel, and beginning channels who are afraid of their abilities, is that I bug the crap out of my guides. I will tell you a little story about that. But it's all about inquiry. It's all about asking the right questions. So that class, The Art of Spiritual Inquiry, teaches you what questions bring you into opening your gifts, what questions bring you into knowing your spirit guides, into knowing yourself, into knowing your purpose. It's about knowing how to question. That's what it's about. Discovering your abilities is about proper spiritual inquiry to yourself, not to other people, not other people telling you, but knowing how to inquire within yourself. So back to my story. My little 12-year-old, he was 11 at the time, and we were kind of on a bit of a shamanic endeavor, and we were walking up a mountain together, and we ran out of water. So I was teaching him about belief and manifestation, and it was interesting. We did come across water that was clean, but we ran out of water and we're getting dehydrated. And to make a long story short, we found water, we drank it, it was fine. And when we got to the bottom of the mountain, he looked at me, and he has this thing, okay? He's just a very smart kid. He's a very aware kid. And he said it seriously, but he's really joking, and had this really serious look on his face. But he was joking, but it was true. He said, how do you know that your guides weren't trying to kill you on that mountain? And it just kind of took me aback. And I said, excuse me, come again? What did you say? Why would my guides be trying to kill me? He said, well, the water could have been poisoned for all you know. And I'm like, no, I just taught you about belief. And, we tested the water, and, and it's fine. We just went through all that, right? What do you mean? He was like, well, you asked too many questions. Your guides were probably just trying to get you to some bad water to, knock you out of this body, because they're so annoyed with the thousands of questions you ask. Yeah. And coming from a little kid who asks questions like every 5 seconds of his life, I found that to be an interesting reflection. Really, really fun, huh? Really, really fun. Okay, moving on. We only have one more question that I can do before I have to start sessions for the day. Yeah, Melissa said, that's your kid. He definitely is. I have taught a lot of classes about shame. Someone said how to release it. The best thing you can do is forgive it. I taught a class from the book that is in the making right now called Course in Forgiveness. That's my book. And I put all of the most important teachings from that book in a class called The Ultimate Mastery in Self-Love. Teachings from Halo and Lilith on forgiveness. Forgiveness is what is necessary to heal shame. Shame is the foundation of almost every major fast-growing cancer in the world right now. And forgiveness is your answer. Being aware that you're shaming yourself or being hypercritical and how, and then forgiving it in each and every moment. So I taught this class very recently. It's right there in the first week of my classes. I think it's like a tier 4 class, though. It's a pretty high tier of a class, but it's not an advanced class. It was very, very simple. And I taught it step by step. So there's your answer in that one. I got to go now before I'm late. I appreciate you. I love you. I'm sorry that I couldn't make it for Monday and Tuesday. I've been trying to do this every day live, but sometimes things come up. Oh, that question. When can we expect your LP to be available for all? So I'm on TuneCore right now, and they had some problem with the title because I wanted to make a tribute to Narenjan Kaur. I wanted to dedicate my first song to her in honor of her, and they wouldn't let me do it. It's just, they wouldn't let me do it. So basically they declined my album because I had her name in the title, and now I have to wait and start all over again for them to approve it. So we are kind of at the mercy of TuneCore right now. Sorry, we're waiting. I removed her name from the tribute line in the title and from the cover. So they're not going to let me give my credit to one of my teachers. And I guess that has to be okay. And they are, in the process in their copyright of reviewing my album all over again. So now we wait. And I'm so sorry, because I know I said it was going to be available soon, but they threw a little corkscrew in my plan there. In my meditation, I saw a being wearing a bright golden armor. Do you know of such a being? Yeah, in the dreams, there are beings like that. There are beings that wear black armor. There are beings that wear no armor. Those are generally what I've observed collectively with those types of beings. They are what I call guardians. Those are angelic guardians. Yeah. What is my take on Bashar? I don't really like to comment on other spiritual teachers or other people's teachings. It's an ethical thing that I just have within me, and I just don't do it. It's rare that you'll hear me mentioning another teacher, because their teachings are their business and my teaching is my business, correct? So in other words, I don't know Bashar very well to even make a comment. I try not to let my teachings get biased or infiltrated by other people's teachings, even if they're good ones. I've heard some great things about him, but I just can't personally comment. I can comment on some of the ones I love. I love Abraham Hicks. I have a deep knowledge of Cryon's teachings, deep respect for Lee Carroll. I love A Course in Miracles. I love Way of Mastery. I love Carol Howe and all of her teachings. I deeply recommend her. So there are some teachers that I do know and can speak of, but Bashar, I don't have a lot of familiarity with. And I haven't had time to really dig deeply enough to comment one way or the other. Can I channel Abraham Hicks? I can and do, but I do not do it publicly out of respect for Esther. That's her gig. So just like Cryon picks Lee Carroll, Lilith picks me. So I channel Lilith and Halo a lot. They seem to pick me. So that's kind of my thing right now. Should you join Patreon? Well, I'm not going to tell you what you should or shouldn't do, but I can say that there is a 33% discount on all of the tools, techniques, channelings, readings, and healings on my website right now if you join Patreon. And that's only for June. I'm not going to do that the rest of this year. So that's a very limited special to get that code. And once you join, just send us a message from Patreon and my assistant will send you the code to get your discount. But it is powerful, and it is not just what's going on live, but it's a library of, I think right now we're up to 90 something channelings. Is that right, Flavia? We're up to hundreds of classes, at least 110 or so. We have at least 80 live sayings like this. So it's not just what you're going to be getting that's this week and next and however long you join, but it's months of stuff. Like I think I've been on Patreon for like a year and a half now. So I'm going to go. I have to get to work. I love you guys. I said I was going to go 5 minutes ago. So I'm actually going to go now. And I will see you, tomorrow. I don't think I have anything going on tomorrow. So I will see you then.